I read pretty much every blog entry just because for one, I'm doing market intelligence because I'm quite fascinated by the strategy that he's doing, but also because it's quite entertaining, and just like me, Croda has left and come back to the game on a bunch of occasions. So without much ado, Croda, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Oz.
So let's start with really quick with the Pearl Abyss financials that I just talked about. I know we talked about them earlier. Was there anything on there that I missed or that you found particularly exciting? What do you think about the health of Pearl Abyss or CCP overall at the moment?
Overall, Pearl Abyss, the loss was unexpected, but I think you talked about that. For CCP, I think we're going to learn the truth in the Q3 numbers, which will come out in sort of October, November, and then we'll see what the 30% rise has done for the CCP revenue, and we'll get an idea of prices up 30%, and we'll see what the volume has done, and I think that'll be the moment of truth, because at the end of the day, CCP has to increase their revenues in Eve by 20% just to eradicate the loss, and they probably have to increase it by more because of wage. It will be going up this year anyway. Wage developers are going up everywhere. So yeah, this is going to be quite interesting, October, November, to see what's happened.
Yeah, I think you've got not only developer wages going up, but then overall inflation is also killing them, and especially in a place like Iceland where life is already expensive. So in terms of a competitive advantage or disadvantage, Reykjavik is I think in this current economy a tough place to be. Hateless, by the way, Hateless, thank you for that raid with 64, man. I appreciate it, dude. Welcome everyone that came in from Hateless's stream. We're talking to Croda, who is a fellow trader and CCP financial analyst, I would say, along with what I do as well. So what did you think, Croda, when the sub price increase came out? I mean, I already just said that I thought it was a terrible decision. What was your initial reaction?
I think they were backed into the corner. I think they went for a meeting in South Korea and they were told they had to eliminate the loss. And they can only do two things in the short term. They can't increase player numbers in the short term. They can increase prices or decrease costs. And essentially, if they don't eradicate their loss, then Pearl Abyss has got a problem. They've got 190 million of purchase price sitting on their balance sheet, and if CCP can't demonstrate that they can justify that in terms of profits, then they've got to write it off. So I think the South Koreans laid down the law to them, and they came back because it all seemed very quick and in a hurry and unplanned.
Yeah, I couldn't quite believe it, and I called it a financial gamble earlier, and to make your game essentially the most expensive MMO out there in a time where you haven't really come out with a lot of new content in a long time it's a huge gamble, right? And I don't see how it's going to pay off, but we'll see. I can't wait for the Q3 numbers as well. I would put my money on revenues going down significantly for EVE Online, and if they don't, then I'd be very interested in how they pull that off. All right, let's move over to your blog or your activities in game. So I think when we talked earlier, Croda, we realized that we have exactly opposite trading strategies, which I find fascinating because we somehow end up making a bunch of ISK, but in different ways. So for everyone that doesn't know what you do in game, could you give us maybe the 5-minute summary of what you do, what your strategies are, how many times you've left and come back Eve, and all that good stuff?
So this is the third time I've played Eve. I played for a little bit. Well, this is the third time I've played Eve. Hold on 2 seconds. Let me just sort out there.
No worries.
Yeah. Oh. This is the third time I've played Eve. 2012 to 2016 was the first time, and then I dropped off. Came back in 2019, dropped off, and I started again in August, September 2020. Doing the same thing all the time. I play the markets, so I rarely undock. My strategy has always been the same. It's regional trading. So I am buying from sell orders in Jita, and I'm having the items couriered to my trading locations, which is the other 4 trading hubs, so Amar, Dodixie, Rennes, and Heck, and then some other trading locations I have, and I'm putting them up at a 25% profit margin. So what I mean by that, everything is referenced to sales price. So if I buy an item in Jita for 750 million, I will try and sell it for 1 billion. So that's 250 million profit. 1 billion is the sales price. So that's 25% profit margin. And obviously off that comes courier costs, sales transaction taxes, and broker fees. And that takes about 9% off. So I'm making 16% profits on everything I sell. That's the aim. Billion. So every billion of sales I make makes 164 million. That's generally it. My strategy is to focus on items that are slow moving but high profit. So if an item only sells once every 3 days or 10 days or 20 days, that is fine by me because it has next to no competition at all. So I stick an item up there and it'll sell within the next 10 days, and I will rarely have to change the price in places like Heck and Rennes. And Dodixie and Amar, I may have to change the price every so often. But essentially, I operate where there's no competition, and I'm selling sort of blueprints, skill books, implants, and ship equipment. I'm not selling consumable items or components, so I don't sell anything that somebody has on a spreadsheet as part of a cost into making a product, because that is competitive, and people tend to be very careful on price. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm sort of putting stuff up in Dodixie, which is, what is it, 25 jumps away from Jita. And I'm essentially saying, look, you can buy my item for 1 billion, or you can spend 45 minutes flying to Jita and back and save 250 million. I provide no other value. So I'm not like a distributor in real life that provides some other value. All I'm doing is giving an ISK time sort of equation to the buyer. And I have 3 aims. Every account I have has to justify its Omega status. So I've got 3 Omega accounts and 3 Alpha accounts. The second aim is to make more than 10 billion profit a month after Plex. And then the third aim, which I'm sort of more or less hitting all the time, is to make 30 billion or 1 billion profit a day after Plex, which is about 36 billion profit a month after my Plex costs. And if I can do that, I'm happy. I have 3 Alpha accounts, and I'm trying to sort of find sort of 2 of the characters in those Alpha accounts that I can combine to sort of upgrade to another Omega. If I can do that, that would be great. That's essentially me. Completely opposite from you. I don't do low profit, high volume. I rarely sell in Jita. I'm all about sort of regional trading. That is what I do.
Nice. So 2 things. One, Imperium News, thank you for that raid of 250. Welcome, Brisk and friends. We're talking to Croda, a fellow market trader, about trading strategies in EVE Online. I have a bunch of follow-up questions, Croda, but one question just came from chat, and that is, do you do your own hauling?
No, I don't. When I start off, I haul up to about 80 million, but all my contracts are couriered out. And I pay 2%. I add 20% to the cost, and I pay 2% courier fee, and I get it within sort of a few hours.
Yeah. Do you use like the haulers channel?
No, I find they're too expensive now. I generally put it up on public chat, or more recently, I tend to use the same courier all the time, who I've sort of used now for a year. I find he's very efficient, very quick. The stuff I tend to, it's very low volume, as in 1 meter cube stuff. So I'm rarely having more than 100 meter cube transported. So my couriers can use small, fast ships, so much less likely to be ganked.
Yeah. So you said earlier, so maybe to highlight for everyone else, the the big difference in strategies from Croda to myself is that he focuses on low volume, high margin items, whereas I do a lot of high volume swing trading for very small margins, right? In the end, it's it's a question of how much time do you want to put in updating orders, and how good is your market intelligence and your trade network, and how well do you know what sells where for what price, not only current price, but typical going price. And a lot of that you get through experience, I would say. So Croda, the immediate risk that I see in your strategy, and which I'm curious about how you handle that, is, so how do you, if you say you're fine with an item trading every 10 days, right? How do you not get stuck with a whole bunch of inventory, because you're bound to be wrong on some of them, and if you're trading on very expensive low volume items, then some of them must go wrong. You must have big stockpiles somewhere, and that's cost of capital, I guess.
Yeah, so the way I sort of think about that is every Saturday night, so after this show, I'll go through all my trading locations, and anything that's got less than 10 days before it expires, I put stuff up for 3 months. I drop the price a little bit just to set it to 90 days. So there is stuff there that's locked up in a sense, and I guess that's what you could class as getting it wrong. The second way to get it wrong is, I put something up for, $1 billion, let's say, that I bought for Jita for 750 million. And before you know it, the price in Jita is 500 million. So I've got something that's very expensive. I tend to find that doesn't matter. That billion-isk item will still sell for $1 billion if somebody wants to buy it. They will still not fly to Jita or get these 500 million item couriered out. But your original point is correct. I do have, I am, every location I'm updating 3 or 4 items that haven't sold for 90 days.
Yeah.
Part of the cost of doing business.
So I get most of my market intelligence from my huge spreadsheets that I query. I sort by market volume. I look at the large trading items, everything I talked about in my FanFest presentation as well. Do you have huge spreadsheets? How do you identify items? Is it all experience? Is it analytics? What is it?
So it's a mix of things. I mean, firstly, the stuff I'm buying and selling, I have absolutely no idea what the stuff does, apart from the mining stuff. I mean, I basically, I know for mining stuff it sells in pairs. But otherwise, I'm buying afterburners, trying to sell afterburners, blueprints, skill books, implants. I have absolutely no idea what these things do or why people would want them. The way I kind of once a month, I go to, what was it, Fuzzy Enterprise spreadsheet to get a complete dump, down dump of all the items in EVE Online. And I use the API on EVE Marketeer to match that up to prices. So I get the sell prices for all the items in Jita and the main trading hubs. And from that, I can just sort of use my spreadsheets to make sure am I sort of thinking about the right stuff to be buying and to be selling. So that's the sort of the main thing. And then on my sort of APIs on the game, I sort of have every item I'm trying to sell in, say, Dixie and MR, and then I've got a whole load of other items that I'm interested in. And I'll just cycle through those items every night to sort of see, oh, look, there's nothing on sale for here. I should then buy it from Jita, or my experience tells me that this item is up there for 900 million on Dixie, but I can actually get it for 500 million on from Jita. Like I sort of do that from the spreadsheet. So it's a bit of once a month, make sure I've got the right stuff I'm looking for. And then every night I'm cycling through looking for items to sell, to replace the items I've already sold.
Do you use any other tools in your trading, like Adam for
Absolutely
Eve?
not. Absolutely not at all. I use Adam for Eve to sort of work out where's the best place to try and start up another trade location. So when I sort of opened up another Omega account with a character in Subasaki, which is literally one jump out of Jita, you'd be amazing what the sales you can do there is. It's in another region though. And then Tashmerkan Prime, which is obviously in Tashmerkan. I used Adam for Eve to sort of work out those were the places to be in those regions. Other than that, no, I fear not. I use Eve Tycoon is my sort of browser market browser. I find I find that much easier to use than Eve Marketeer, but other players will have their preference. But Eve Tycoon is the one I use, and I also use is it the Eve Portal mobile app just to see all the sales I've done every day. And also, it's the one I use to update my monthly spreadsheet to show me how many sales I've done on the month and all my characters.
Yeah. So you don't use Jeeve assets?
No, I sort of no, in a word.
Yeah. That's what I use to get to download my transactions and put them into my spreadsheet. But yeah, there's 3 or 4 ways of doing that. I saw in your blog that you're going beyond the biggest trade hubs. You actually have alpha accounts in very small trade hubs as well. And the way I understand it is you see how it goes, and then if it's successful, you upgrade to Omega. Is that your strategy?
That is exactly right. So I want to try, and the ultimate aim is to see if I can have a trade location in every region in HiSec. And I'm sort of sucking it and seeing it, if you like. So I had an alpha account in Sobisaki and in Tashmerkon, and I sort of realized pretty quickly that they were going to make it. The golden rule is, can I combine 2 characters together and then 1 character in Jita and justify the upgrade to Omega? If I can do that, then I will upgrade them to Omega. And then I've got a series of alpha accounts, as you can sort of see in sort of Essence and Verge Vendor and places like that. I think I'm coming close to the characters in Essence, Alan 10, and Verge Vendor, Arnon. Well, I've got those the wrong way around. I think I'm coming close to be able to combine them to make them an Omega account. But that's exactly it. My dream is to start to open trade locations in low sec and null sec, but that is proving frighteningly impossible.
Yeah. Hauling is your number 1 problem there.
Again, I don't do any of that. I do source some blueprints from low sec and null sec, and again, they're all couriered out. I give that to I put those on the public sort of courier channels, and somebody will pick them up for a 2% fee and whisk them over to me. So again, that's not so much a problem. If I can find an NPC station, there's always somebody who's willing to courier stuff out for a fee.
What do you do besides trading in game? I mean, it sounds like we're a lot alike in that we amass a whole lot of money and then don't do anything with it.
Yeah, so primarily I reinvest the money back into the sort of the trading venture, but that will eventually lead to burnout. So I'm sort of dabbling in manufacturing, and that's the only stuff I sell in Eve. And so far, I can sort of generate enough for another Plex through manufacturing, but it's a bit haphazard. I'd love to do PI because essentially what I'm doing is I'm gathering up an awful lot of characters in Jita. If I can combine them together, maybe I can sort of get some PI to work better. I don't know. And I'd love to sort of experiment in sort of research. I mean, essentially, I've got these characters. Well, once I've trained up to the maximum trade skills, there is literally no more skills for me to do. So I might as well branch into manufacturing or research, sort of invention, if you like, or PI. But what I'm really bad at is I don't undock. It's not for me.
Yeah. Welcome to the club. You said, I think last time you amassed something like 500 billion, and that you gave it all away. Is that right?
That's right. Sort of sometime in 2016, I amassed 400 odd million. Call it 500, because what I do is when I sort of say my wealth is 400 million, it's actually 500 million, but I take a provision of 100 billion against that, 20% provision, because I want to sort of say, well, if I had to fire sell my stuff, I'd have to ship it all back to Jita and sell it there.
Yeah.
I actually gave it away to 3 players. One was the Lone Wolf, who does a sort of a podcast, and another one was an individual who did manufacturing out of Amar, who stopped podcasting now, and I think the third one was somebody who operated out of Lowsec, and I've forgotten the name of her blog, unfortunately. But she stopped blogging a few years ago.
Okay.
But essentially, in their mailbox, they got a whole load of cash, plex, and sort of items that they had to sell themselves.
Nice. Yeah, it's the whole cost of selling your inventory is something that I think a lot of traders aren't correctly factoring in their either in the net worth or their profit calculations. It's something that I definitely in my funds I manage about I don't know 4 trillion ISK, right? And about 3 trillion of that is tied up in assets. And if I wanted to sell all of them, then that would be an absolute significant amount of cash that I would have to subtract. So when I calculate the share price for my funds, that is something I always subtract beforehand before I reach the final price, because otherwise that would be grossly misrepresented. But so it's good that you're considering that as well.
Yeah, I think you've got no choice. I mean, obviously, once something's up on the market, you've still got the transaction tax to sell, and then you've got to consider you might have to reduce it. And then finally, and as I've had to do a few times, I've just tried to sell something. There's this, I don't know what they are, that stand-up MSET. I just got myself into a load of trouble a year and a half ago, and I had to delist it all from the Dixie market and ship it back to JITA. And that's actually the only time I've made a loss in the quarter. It cost me about 10 billion to write off, and that's when my wealth was about 80 billion. But you just got to have provisions sort of sitting there on your balance sheet to take those hits when they come along.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw somebody putting in chat here a while ago that they were making fun of my stack of, I think it's a 35 billion stack of 0 point condensate that I accidentally listed in JITA. It's out there right now. You can buy it. It's actually the price has increased, so now it's actually coming up on, it's 28.5 billion. That's yeah, Sky, thanks. That was a fat finger. I accidentally listed the entire stock. Cost me I think several billion in listing fees, probably, or maybe like 700 or 800 million in listing fees. And yeah, but it's coming. The price is coming up, so it was a very profitable investment. Mistakes do happen. So Croda, so you run three or four Omega accounts, or right now 3, but then you don't do anything with them. You said earlier you don't even do PI. You're not running abyssals. You're only dabbling a little bit in industry and research, and that's it.
Yeah, because I limit myself to 45 minutes a day. Quite busy in real life.
Yeah.
And I mean, the trading side is quite systematic. It's sort of, you get into a routine sort of very quickly, and once a month I'm doing the downloads. That takes a bit longer. Every Saturday night I'm making sure there's nothing with less than 10 days to sell. And once you've got your courier set up, actually my courier has just sort of mailed me and said he's happy to be named. Madness. So the courier I use is Al from Yorkshire, and if you can find a courier,
I've used them on many occasions.
He gets the stuff there in a few hours, and that means I get home from work, I update all my prices, I work out what's been sold. I then sort of, the first thing I do is see if those things make sense to try and sell again, and then I look for other stuff to sell. Put it up there, and quite often the courier will get it back straight to me that night. So before I go to bed, I'm then on for a second time. So half an hour to sort of do everything, and then 15 minutes before I go to bed to put the stuff on that he delivers. But that's one of the great things about Eve. I mean, I think doing couriers is madness. It's the risk. The risk asymmetry is just something else. But other people do it really well, and they enjoy it.
Somebody said that earlier, that they would like us to discuss courier pricing, and let's pick that topic up, because you mentioned it. I don't understand the risk versus reward calculation that couriers do in EVE Online, because no matter how I turn that formula, or how I think about that formula, it does not make sense, because even if you take, like, at any point in time, if I use the hauling channel, right, and for 1% collateral, people will ship anything, right, for a reward of or the reward of 1% of collateral, right? So if people just get ganked once, from my point of view, if people just get ganked once, they're basically destroying the profits of months and months of work, and I don't understand how that can be profitable. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm with you. I mean, I pay 2% for
Yeah,
my couriering
which is
because
nice.
I'm out for speed.
Yeah.
Which means essentially my courier, if he gets ganked once, he's essentially got to do 50 more trips for me to break even. Now the thing about couriers, you can actually look on them and you can see their history, and they all obviously what any courier will do, including Al, is he will gather up all the stuff from Jita, so it'll be me and other people in a ship, and he will fly, and hopefully he flies small fast ships. So his only risk, if he gets it wrong, his main risk is disconnecting.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only way I can make the risk reward work. Otherwise, I think it's madness, because he is essentially putting his balance sheet at risk every night.
Yep.
To get a 2% return.
So,
but he likes doing it, and that's what Eve is about. So well done him.
do we think? So the only thing I can think of is that it's kind of like people not valuing their own time while mining or while doing industry, right? The minerals I mine are free people, the MEMAFs as we call them in this channel. If you translate that to hauling, and you have people that might not that yes, they're trying to make a profit hauling, but if they look at their career, they've actually made a loss over 10 years, over 5 years, over 2 years, whatever it is they're hauling, and they're very large, and if they run out of capital, then they might even inject with Plex to keep on going, and they're just doing it because they like hauling, thereby kind of destroying the economy. Right, because they're messing up the prices for everyone else, and it's kind of immersion breaking in terms of the economic simulation that EVE Online is. Right? What do you think?
I might take a slightly different angle. I mean, when I sort of
Please.
look over the last 12 months, I mean, I've spent about 47 billion on courier fees. I've done sales of 2.4 trillion. I think, and obviously most of that 47 billion has gone to one person. I think they probably make a positive return overall. Otherwise they'd keep on dropping out the market, and you just have none left. And I can't imagine they go out on doing PV and PvP just to sort of finance their sort of loss-making courier side. So I might disagree, although I can't think of a good reason why you would be wrong. Yeah.
I think there are definitely some out there that are extremely good, and that can minimize the risk, and that are flying jump freighters and are just aggregating so many contracts that they do turn a profit. I just in terms of risk versus reward, just the disconnection risk that you were mentioning, just that risk alone makes it not worth it for me in my head. But maybe next time we need to have Al from Yorkshire on, and he can tell us how much he's actually making hauling. And he has hauled for me on a bunch of occasions. So if he's listening, thank you for hauling that stuff. Oz Eve, how would you price hauling if you had to do it? Is a question from chat. Well, if it was just me making the prices and there was no competition and I could actually make the prices, then I would probably charge 5 times of what people are charging now, because you would have to look at the past year, look at how many times you've lost your ship, looked at the average percentage risk of losing your ship on various routes, and then charge based on that. And the way that people are charging at the moment is not in any way related to that, right? If you can get somebody to haul from Amar to Jeddah for 1% of collateral, that's pretty crazy, right? And yeah, some of them might, find a good wormhole connection. Some of them might be really, really good, and some of them might have a fantastically stable internet connection. However, what I'm saying is they should be charging a premium for all of that, and they should be charging a premium for the risk that they're taking. And I feel like there are a select few that don't charge that premium, and thereby kind of breaking prices, and therefore also keeping some others out of being able to enjoy that activity because it's not as profitable as it should be, right?
Yeah, I've noticed PushX and Red Frog put up their prices a lot when I came back. I think to what the point you're saying is, you have to make a return.
I think they are. I think it makes sense for PushX and the frogs to make a profit, because what they can do is they can aggregate risk, right? They can aggregate. They can spread that risk out to a lot of contracts, like an insurance company, and on that scale, it works. Like everything I just said only applies to individual haulers, really. Yeah, hauler strike.
The other point I'll make is, I sort of subscribe to a YouTube channel guy called MacGybo, who's a ganker, and he explains it really well and calmly what he's doing. And essentially, there are a lot of people flying there with stuff that is just inviting to be ganked. And his point is, if you properly set yourself up, so don't forget the cargo extenders, go for tank and shield, he will probably ignore you because there are enough people flying through the gate that are a lot more inviting. So there's a bit of sort of safety in numbers and being the one with the trainers who can run the fastest going on here, I suspect.
One thing that or one risk that a lot of people take, that even I have taken on occasion, is the whole, I'm just going to haul my stuff from perimeter to Jeddah or the other way around, right? Which is quite insane. Yes, it's quite safe if you have an undock. If you have a good undock, especially if you have maybe several undocks that are not always the same, and your name is not Oz, you have maybe a sub 2 second aligned ship like a Sunesis, and you're hauling very expensive skins or something because you've bought them in perimeter and you want to sell them in Jeddah, for example. It seems like a very small risk to take, but really it's insanity. If you are hauling, I don't know, 50 or 100 billion in small stuff, even skill injectors, for example, from Jeddah to perimeter or the other way around, it's really an insane risk that if you're doing the risk versus reward calculation, you really can't do, especially because you're actually going to find someone who's going to haul it for next to nothing because it's just one jump.
Yeah. Like I said, this is what makes Eve so exciting. There are people who are willing to do it and they can do it well, and it's a really important component of my business model. Somebody has to do it because I certainly can't do it.
Yeah. So, your current operation, so you've been going for what, 2 years, and you started at zero again, and you are at, what is it, 447 billion is what it says on your website?
Yep, so always start at zero, so you get 10 million ISK coming out of the training, and start with that same strategy. Literally you're buying missile blueprints from Jita at 200,000 and you're selling them for 800,000 in Dodixie. Now, that's not going to excite anyone on this channel or move the dials. But, you start, eventually you're buying stuff for 200 million and you're selling it for higher. And then you're buying stuff for 750 million to sell it for $1 billion. But it's exactly the same strategy. So somebody with 10 million can do what I did. And way in the depths of my blog, this goes back several years, I sort of gave a sort of an in-depth, this is how I did it. I think I've done that twice. And now my wealth is 450 billion, which is about 500 billion on the market. Take away 100 billion provision, and then I've got 18 billion plex. I've got 4,300 plex. I really should have 9,000, which would allow me to take a 6-month break and still keep my accounts in Omega status. And then about 8 billion cash. I aim to have no more than 2 billion cash before I go to bed every night. I want to keep everything invested because the only thing I know about cash in my wallet is it'll be there tomorrow. It won't go up.
Yeah. So how much time do you take every day or a week in mainly updating orders, which is your main activity is going to be updating orders, right?
Yeah. So weekdays, no more than 45 minutes per night, which is 30 minutes updating orders. Dodixie and Amar take about 20 minutes of that time, or 25 minutes. Ren's, Hex, Sobasaki, Tashmerk, all the alpha accounts I just fly through because there's literally no competition at all. Amar is the most competitive place. So 30 minutes a night updating orders, and then 15 minutes a night sort of working out what to buy, and then putting on the trades. And then weekends, Saturday night can be about an hour. Sitting about harder, thinking about what more to sell, because that then gives ideas for the next week. And then, of course, going through each character to sort of anything with less than 10 days to go before it expires. Just updating that.
And I'm assuming the breaks that you take after 2 years, which is a long time doing that, if I may say so, is because at some point you burn out because it becomes too tedious to update orders every day.
Yeah, a bit of that. You sort of on the first occasion just ran out. So ran out of things to do and didn't expand. Second occasion, and actually on both occasions, real life just gets in the way. Which is why this time I don't really want to keep on doing this. I want to sort of try and expand into manufacturing and other stuff and see if I can do it within the time allowance that I give myself. The trouble is, though, that the trading is so profitable and needs so little time that anything else that I think of trying just can't match those metrics. So right. I might have to give up. I give in and sort of say, well, I want enjoyment, therefore I'm going to have to take a little less profit every day to do it.
Yeah. What's your ISK goal for this time around?
Well, it's always $1 trillion, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a nice round number.
And what are you going to do with it when you get it?
Go for 2 trillion. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. And somebody in chat asked, what was your craziest deal?
This time in the last 2 years, I've not had a blunder either way. In prior times, I have put something up for $1 million, or 100 million, and somebody has had a fat finger and bought it for $1 billion. Mm-hmm. So, and also there's times when the new skill books came out. Do you remember the Vorton specializations?
Yeah.
I made absolute hay in those times, and when the mining changes were made last year, I made absolute hay as well. Just to say, just generally, if somebody does spend $1 billion buying something for me that I put up for 100 million, if they ask me, I will give them that money back.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Yeah.
And likewise, if my courier gets ganked, I will generally give them back the surplus, and they will take the hit for the capital, but I will give them back the collateral because, I'm not trying to make a profit out of them.
If it's a hauler that you have a relationship with, though, right? And not if somebody.
Exactly.
Because you want them to keep working for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think the same way. When I actively see fat fingers where I see, oh God, somebody's gonna have a really bad day looking at that transaction. If they ask, I always give it back, just because I know that feeling, and I get more enjoyment out of making someone's day than having another billion in my account.
Yeah, exactly. It just sort of adds to the game, makes it more enjoyable.
So you said so I'm typically someone who's, because I don't do a lot of other stuff in game, I'm not somebody who's incredibly knowledgeable of what everything does in game, right? But when we talked earlier, you already said that you probably know even less of what the items do than myself, just from what you've heard on my stream, right? So, I mean, how do you avoid not getting hit by the patch hammer, right? Because something like that hit me really hard. The when you have the amount of moon goo quadrupled, or when you have something introduced like moon goo compression. How do you avoid getting hit by that? Do you follow hobo leaks? What's your strategy to keep informed about what's going on, what's hitting the market?
So I will make sure I'm up to date on the patch notes. But actually, bear in mind, I don't buy raw materials. I don't buy components. I buy
Yeah.
end products like large armor, ship equipment, or skill books or blueprints. Rarely does that get affected by patches. Patches tend to go for the raw materials. It goes for the source material, and I'm not interested in any of that. So I get hit when a skill book disappears. So I have had something up for 100 million on the market, and I get sort of three items of titanium for it. Thank you very much, CCP. But that's it. That's it. I get hit by the tax changes, but that'll hit everyone. So generally, I sort of sail through immune. I sort of say that touching wood, because just in case something else happens. But generally, I'm all right.
Somebody here, Turrican, says something that I completely disagree with. Old players destroy the game for new players. Casual gamers. Station trading destroys prices. Station trading makes markets more efficient, right? Station trading is if anything makes the markets more efficient, and prices hit equilibrium faster, Turrican, right? The only thing that you might be referring to might be if people with a lot of capital go manipulating markets and profit from that, basically price gouging. And that is something that actually neither Croda nor I can't. At least it sounds like that. Croda is not our main activity in game. So I think on that I would have to rebuff you, Turrican.
Yeah, I don't do station trading. I've never got my head around that. I mean, essentially, what am I doing? I am selling stuff in Dordixie that would not otherwise be available there. I think to the player's point that you made, I'm selling stuff for quite a lot more than you could buy it in Jita. So if you have a choice, you can buy something from me for 1 billion, or you can fly all the way to Jita and buy it for 750 million. That's
Exactly.
But the service I am providing is I am saving you the time, and I'm asking you to make the equation in your mind is 250 million worth 45 minutes of your time. And the answer is quite often yes.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, it sounds like you also trade in regular use items that people will buy to put in their ships. And if you're talking about veterans, for example, buying stuff in Dodixie or Amar, a lot of times, if we're not talking hundreds of millions or billions, then most people aren't really going to care about the price. They're only going to care about availability, because if you're a veteran player, then you don't care if you're buying something for 5 million or 10 million. If it's a module that you need, then that's not going to make a big difference. You're not going to make the 14 jumps to Jita to buy your afterburner.
That's exactly it. I'm hunting for stuff that has no price sensitivity. It's exactly the point. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have no idea what the things do, which is probably an exaggeration, right? Because by now you've probably figured out what most items that are profitable to you are, what most of them do. But how do you avoid buying something that just completely doesn't make sense? So do you have some sort of sense about the categories and the general gameplay? I would have to think so, right?
Well, I'm always buying stuff that does something rather than makes your ship look pretty. So it does have a use. It's an afterburner or a shield repairer or a blueprint. So I don't sell skins and stuff. I've tried it once or twice, but that's really down to people's sort of cosmetics and stuff like that. But otherwise, no. I mean, I sell implants are good because you tend to sell the family. Somebody comes along to buy the Hydra implant, and they literally buy the alpha, beta, gamma, delta, S, and omega. But I still have no idea. I sort of look at the information thinking, well, I have no idea why people would want to buy that, but they do, and that's all I'm interested in. I mean, at the end of the day, when I sort of put something up for sale, I know that it does sell once every 3 days or 5 days or 10 days or 20 days. So I know there is volume there. And I know I'm one of the only 1, 2, or 3 people trying to sell it. So I've got a very good chance of making the sale. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know what it does.
Somebody's asking what you do with the training time on your Omega accounts. Do you sell them for? Do you extract the skills and sell large skill injectors, or do you just have very underutilized high skill point accounts?
No. So what I do is every Omega account has 2 traders and 1 buyer and Jita. The 2 traders are the first things that get trade up to level 5 on the main trade skills, which is accounting, broking, and then how many items can you put up for sale. I'm not interested in the sort of the other sort of trading skills. Those are the three or four main ones. And then I train up the one in Jita. Train the one in Jita PI, manufacturing, sort of invention and stuff like that, because the one in Jita is the one who's going to sit there and try and make surplus ISK, when I get my act together to sort it out. So no, I don't sort of sell skill points. I'm trying to sort of upgrade the Jita character.
Do you count the profit that you're making from invention or industry? Do you count that into the profit that is listed there on your blog?
I tried invention and didn't really go very far. Manufacturing, yes, I do keep a track of it. And in my last monthly update, I sort of stated what profit I made out of manufacturing, mainly because all the manufacturing sales go through Jita, so I can sort of keep a track of it. But yes, I do sort of try and keep up with it. The thing about why would you want to do manufacturing is you capture more of the margin. So if I'm buying something from Jita to selling it in Dodixie, that's all very good and well. But if I can manufacture it for cheaper, i.e. closer to the buy price in Jita, then I should capture more of the profit. And that's the ultimate aim. The trouble is, as soon as I start manufacturing Jita to sell in Dodixie, I will then no longer know what's the split of my manufacturing profit and the trading profit. But that's something for me to work out further down the line.
You'll have enterprise profit at that point.
Yeah. Internal pricing, stuff like that.
Yeah. You'll have to make your own transfer pricing. Do you trade in Plex?
No, never worked it out. And I imagine the margins are very, very low. The other thing I do is I don't trade in in a player-owned station. I always trade in the main trading hub. So if there's a player-owned station near Dodixie or Amar, doesn't interest me. It's the trading. So I am paying slightly more tax than I otherwise would, but that is absolutely fine by me.
Yeah, but that difference used to be very large, but it's not really anymore. They in one of the latest patches they really it's really close now. Especially if you're skilled well, the difference between a play-on station in terms of tax is not that big. So you don't even use the triple T in perimeter?
No, okay. At all. I mean, the other thing I'll say is if you're in a main trading hub like Dodixie, Amar, Rennes, or Heck, and if there's a cheaper item up for sale somewhere else in the region, that really doesn't matter. If something is up for sale for 500 million and I've got it up for sale for 600 million in the Rennes trading hub, that 600 million will sell. People will not leave the Rennes trading hub and fly out in the middle of in the region to get that 500 million item. It's different in Tashmerkon and maybe in Soboseki in the sort of those regions. But in the main trading regions, it's not at all. It's the location, the trading hub that counts, not the rest of the region prices.
So the reason you don't need you wouldn't need the player-owned station anyway in those other regions, because you're most of the time you're taking stuff from Jita and you're selling it there, right? So you want to sell in the main NPC station anyway, because that's going to be the main trade hub, and that's where people are going to go to buy your stuff. But in terms of Jita, are you just straight up buying the stuff from Jita and then shipping it out, or do you have just a huge battery of buy orders out in Jita?
No, no buy orders at all. Never. I try and do that. It doesn't work. So I buy from the sell orders in Jita. So if you're trying to sell something in Jita, I could well end up buying from it, and then that's couriered out, and then I put it up for sale. So I'm buying from sell orders and putting up my own sell orders. It sounds terribly inefficient. I get that, but again, if you're going for stuff that's low volume, low competition, it does work.
Yeah, but I mean that is surprising. I would have I guess you would have a hard time hitting your revenue numbers, and you're basing a lot of your profit expectation, profit projection on your revenue number, right? So if you would rely on somebody actually selling you stuff through a buy order, then that wouldn't really work in the system that you have set up, which I think is really interesting because it shows that the system that you're using really works. And I'm pretty sure there's probably only a handful of people out there that are doing it the way that you are, and probably just one or two that are doing it at that scale.
Yeah, I think because I think it's, for some people it could be extremely boring. I mean, most people who put an item up for sale kind of expect it to sell within a day or two. Because as you say, you're tying up a lot of capital to put something up there that takes 10 or 20 days to sell. I mean, obviously, long may that last, because if I get serious competition coming in, I literally have to move out of that item. I'll sell it at a knockdown price and then go and find something else to sell.
So do you basically have an inventory list where you say, okay, in Do Dixie we've got to stock this sort of stuff, and then in Rents we got to stock this sort of stuff? Or is it more like you have your standard list of items that you stock everywhere?
I have a standard list of items per Omega account. So I've got a list of items that I will try and sell in Do Dixie and MR, and a separate list of items to sell in Rens and Heck, and so on and so forth. But yes, each sort of Omega account has its own sort of list, if you like.
Yeah, it's I hear you in terms of splitting up the specific items per account, because it's just annoying as hell if your spreadsheet tells you have this sort of item, or you have a stack of that sort of item, and then you actually have to go and look at which account has the item, etc., etc. So it makes it a lot easier to also keep track of orders for specific items if you split it up by account.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, chat. Do you guys have any more questions for Croda here? While you guys are thinking about that, Croda, it's been super interesting, and really glad that to finally have you on the stream. Amazing job you're doing, and you're crazy successful at trading in EVE Online. So it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
No, thank you very much. I mean, I listen to your YouTube, and your Twitch every week, and actually, I'll tell you right now, 100%, 300%, 500% more of what you're selling than me. I am purely looking at prices and volume. The reason I listen to what you say is you explain why things are moving. You sort of say this is happening over here, and therefore this product is moving in price over there. I have no idea about that, so I find what you say extremely valuable. So thank you very much for all your work as well.
Thank you, appreciate that. Does I'm just reading from chat here. Does the standing affect his buying and selling? Well, if you're in terms of the standing, the faction standing, do you grind faction standing? Probably not.
No, I don't undock. Every so often I'll tell you what, when I first start, you kind of have to undock and do a little bit of mining so that you can pay the broker fee. But that's it. I haven't, and you have to shoot the odd NPC that comes your way. But that's it. So there's no standing changes. That's something I really miss about the way I play EVE, because I'm in my own guild, I'm in my own corporation, obviously. So I can't be in anybody else's corporation. I would love to have more time and be in alliances and stuff like that, but actually, I quite enjoy what I'm doing, given the time I have.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm exactly the same way. I have, I probably I don't even play 45 minutes a day. I have more like maybe half an hour a day. So absolutely, and I've tried the whole corp thing, and I just my time is not enough. Like since I'm focused on trading and since I make content around trading, it sadly also prevents me from doing other stuff in game, which is bittersweet. But I hear you. Sledgeheart is asking, if you were going to move into a new market, do you have a starter list of like 300 items, or are you too focused on the high profit, slower moving items to have that? I guess you've answered that, right? You have your standard list of items, right?
I do, and as my wealth gets higher, I drop the low value items. So one of my rules at the moment is I have to make a minimum of 100 million profit per item, otherwise it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And eventually I will be selling stuff for a minimum of 1 billion. I mean, that's the way it goes. Is you get more money, you don't want to be selling stuff for 30 million that you bought for 20 million. The profits may be great, but it's not going to move the dials. So as you get more wealthy, I have to upgrade my items to get sort of better and better. Otherwise, my 45 minutes a day is just going to be killed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that I've talked about on stream a lot of times, is that you've got to move up with your capital. Symbiotes ask, do you use sales acquisition partners ever besides hauling partners? So I'm guessing bulk buys. You don't do that, right?
No. Again, I wouldn't begin to know where to begin. Yeah, I've never even looked at it. I was going to guess that you do a lot of raw materials and that, but no. I'm afraid I do my own thing.
Even if you tried, it wouldn't be very successful, Croda, because I've been trading high volume for many years, and there are some people that every month I buy like several orders for 5 to 10 billion from them, and I write to them and I'm like, hey, why don't we make a deal? We save also a whole bunch of taxes, and I never get an answer from some answer, but a lot of them don't answer at all, which I find quite sad in the aspect of a sandbox, because that's that for me that would be actually a very nice player interaction and a nice scenario that I would like to have in that sandbox, but it's not, just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, every so often I will buy somebody will, or a lot of people will literally buy out all my ore strip miners across my trading hubs, and I'll go to Jita and I'll be buying 16 of the things, generally from the same person, and I'll quite often get a mail saying, well, if you want more, I've got a lot more where that came from. But that's as close as I get to dealing with individuals, but it's never quite happened yet. I mean, I just buy from whatever the best sell order price in Jita is and go with that. But I would just love to do that if I had more time and more organization, because that just makes the game a whole lot more interesting and exciting.
Since I see that Hateless rated earlier, that is on one or two occasions, Hateless has sold me all of the loot from his Triglavian fleets. You can buy like 50 billion worth of 0 point field manipulators and that sort of stuff. That is something that does work. If you already know people, or if you maybe have a different connection other than just the in-game client, then that tends to work really well. But and I really enjoy those interactions, actually. Let's see here. The questions keep coming in. Croda, if you have some time, we can go through these questions.
Plenty of time.
Sander asked if you've tried low sec. You answered that earlier. You said it's too hard.
Yeah, I saw some blueprints from low sec and null sec. There's some blueprints that you can only get in low sec and null sec. And again, I have an alpha account player sitting in the low sec or null sec NPC station. They buy it, and I get it couriered by somebody else. I mean, there used to be another guy who did a blog, and he's stopped now. I can't remember what it's called, Eve Industry, or is Industrial Empire. He was a Canadian guy.
Yeah.
I tried to set up with him saying, look, can I sort of try and ship stuff into your place and try and sell it? But it didn't really work. But But I'd love to do that. I've tried to set up in Delve in an NPC station, and frankly, it's gone nowhere. So I can't make it work at the moment. I'm trying, but I can't make it work.
Yeah. Varak asked if you have a favorite mod or item that you trade.
Um, let's just think. I mean, it goes in waves. So every so often you'll go through a batch of all my mining stuff. Mining, I'm always making sure I check the mining, all the mining equipment and upgrades, and drones. The closest I come to selling consumables is the mining drones. The sort of the specialist ones. Because I guess
Do you sell excavators?
Yeah. Because they make good margins. You buy sort of for a stupid price in Jita and selling it for a higher price elsewhere, and you can manufacture some of those as well if you choose to. But it goes in waves. So actually, a month ago, I had sort of a family of implants literally getting sold every night, and then it stops. So I'd say my favorite item is the mining stuff because it always seems to be in demand, and you always seem to be able to good profit margins in the outer trading hubs.
Croda, I just had an idea. So essentially, if I have 3 trillion in assets in Jita, right? So essentially, what I'll just set up an API for you to look at my inventory, and then you can just buy from me directly. That's problem solved.
Problem is solved. Although my experience listening to your work is you tend not to do the stuff that I sell. You're doing much more the source raw materials and the components.
Some of the stuff though, the Dead Space modules are one of my very favorite things to do. Do you trade in those?
Oh yeah. That's where we do have a good overlap. I trade them all the time.
Yeah, because those are going to be amazing for you because people will want to buy them to fit their ships out wherever they are, and they tend to be much cheaper in Jita because that's where that's where they all get they end up, the ones that are looted, that are traded and end up in Jita, and then they're just low volume but super high price, so it's really good.
No, that's exactly it. I will buy stuff from probably you in Jita, and I will ship it out to the Dixie, so that's 25 jumps away, and sell it at a good margin. And people will do that. People will buy that all day. And because people are not looking at that saying, "Gosh, this is something. Every time I press a button, I spend disc." This is a one-off purchase for them until they lose their ship. So they are very price insensitive for buying, the best afterburner they can get, or the best shield repairer, or the best armor repairer they can get.
Yeah, definitely. Raven asked if you do sell ships, like faction hulls.
No. The closest I've ever come was a Thunder. Is it a Thunderbird? I can't remember what it was. Mm-hmm. That's the closest I've come up. I can't make the 25% profit margin on ships, and I would struggle finding somebody to haul them from Jita to wherever. Anyway, so ships is something I don't do.
No, I rarely do it I rarely do it. I've traded quite a bit in freighters and jump freighters in Jita itself, but swing trading, not moving them, because for obvious reasons.
I mean, just to interrupt, the other feature of what I find sells really well is stuff that can't be manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
So ships, has a natural price, the manufacturing price plus a margin, whereas all the Dead Space stuff, most of it can't be manufactured. So it's there is one less source of competition or one less source of price discovery for a Dead Space item versus a ship, which has a natural price, either manufactured price.
Exactly. Plus, it doesn't really have a price ceiling because if everyone started wanting flying a certain fit that is just badass and that only works with a specific Dead Space item, if you had a bunch of them, you would get stupid rich. That will never happen with a ship that people can just manufacture and replace. So another reason for trading in Dead Space modules over ships.
You can see it. You can see it in implants. Some implants you can manufacture, and their price is capped, and others just wing all over the place because you can't manufacture. So it really is down to the demand out there.
And even worse, right? Some you can manufacture or trade in for LP, so it's even worse there, because there you have two sources of price erosion potentially.
Yes, I mean that's another thing you just reminded me of. I mean, I would love one day, because some of the mining drains is a really good example. The reason they are priced at 400 million is because somebody has literally got the only BPO out there, and the BPC is priced at 300 million. So that the reason some of these excavators are 400 million is you're spending 60 million on the raw materials, 300 million on the blueprint copy, and you're trying to sort of sell it at 440. I would love to get hold of one of these rare sort of BPOs, and that I would just sit back and make hay. But
Well, and a bunch of them you trade in for the BPC with LP as well, so you have a value on the BPC because of the LP that gets traded in. So let's see. Do we have any more questions? Did Croda mention he had a blog? Yep, we talked about that. For someone who likes to farm but don't care about market stuff, how can I engage a trader who is interested in deals like this? You ask that's your question is about bulk deals. So basically, one thing you can do is you can join our Discord here, because this is a community that is mostly structured around trading. So if you use a marketplace like ours on our Discord, then you can definitely get rid of bulk items. I think most of the items I would say that are posted in our Discord actually get bought and sold, which is something that is not something that often happens in other Discord servers. Let's see. I think we're done. Let's see. Has he looked into supplying mods to nullsec burner runners like Venal, for example? That's a no.
I tried that 8 years ago to Venal, and I might give it another shot, because, as I say, if I can set up or I can find a trading location in lowsec or nullsec, then that would make my day.
Yeah. I think like trade hub creation, or trade hub setting up trade hubs is one of the coolest activities that you can do in EVE Online, but it's incredibly tedious, incredibly hard, and you need a lot of patience, funds, and a little bit of diplomacy to do that successfully.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, Croda, we're through then. Yeah, a lot longer than I had initially expected, but that's just because I think what you do is just sparked a lot of interest from the community, and thanks so much again for being on here. Hopefully we can have you back at some point in time. Check in on your blog again, guys. If you want to check out his blog, I'm gonna link it in here. It's called Markets for ISK. Check it out, and Croda, you have a great evening, and see you soon.
Great. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. I love the stuff you do. Listen to it every week. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right.